Hey traders, TG Watkins here. It's October 20th, Thursday when I'm recording this, and just about 30 minutes before the bell rings for the close. That shouldn't really matter too much for what I'm going to be covering today. But if you come over here to profitpilot.com and you can check out the newsletters under the home tab, this one that was talking about SPY to the downside and then to the upside, this is actually a pretty good little preface or intro to some of the things that I'm talking about today, so you can actually see that some of the guidance and things that I'm looking for are coming true and actually working out for the way that I've been guiding them. So just want to show you guys that there's some pretty good relevance and reference to that. Now if we look at the S&P, as I said in that newsletter video, I was looking for price to come down to the hourly 50, and it did. So there you go. That's exactly what I was looking for. Now, we don't just buy it here. I can't just say, okay, let's go for it. Mostly because there's no signal and no change of trend on the 15-minute time frame. So yeah, we're just gonna have to wait a little bit. Tomorrow's Friday. I think there's options expiry tomorrow a little bit, something like that. And then we'll have to kind of see what next week looks like. We've been very patient in through this, but for my subscribers, so if you guys remember, somebody in the comments here on YouTube said, hey, I wish you would record these earlier or right on the same day or something like that. And I was like, well, the answer to that is you come subscribe to the Moxie channel where I give you my stream of thoughts and consciousness, and I talk a lot in there and I give a lot of information, a lot of education, and I show you guys exactly what I'm looking at all the time. So this is a free service, and if you guys are interested in current up-to-date stuff where you can actually then come talk to me in the chat room, and then I'm on the mic almost every day, then that's where you can find me over at Moxie Trade, Simpler Trading and Profit Pilot for the Moxie indicator room. Anyway, so to my subscribers, I was telling them that with this gap up, I said, you should not be long, you should cash out, and actually this is where we could be considering a short. And lo and behold, here we are back down to the hourly 50, exactly as I had guided even on that newsletter, that video newsletter. From there, I think we're going to be continuing to kind of hammer out a bottom. We're going to have to look for a turn, again, probably next week. And then kind of what I'm looking for is price and the daily 50 to converge. That's really the question, though. Is it going to converge in a very strong move up? How about maybe a 45-degree move up? Or is it going to be more of a flat move up? That is yet to be seen. We don't quite know yet, but I do think something like that is going to be happening, mostly because if we also look at the higher time frame charts, we can see that price basically came into the monthly 50 and the weekly 200, and I think that we could get a bounce maybe up to the weekly 21, something to that extent. So that's kind of my read on the SPY, and we could see that there was a bit of an undercut and a rally. So undercut in through here, right there, and then maybe we rally. Partly because those moving average supports, but also partly because a lot of times when you look at a double bottom and you break the previous low, that is a sign to go short. But when you also, if it's going to be a trap, like a bear trap, well, then you get people sucked in on the short side when you break that previous low. And if you can't get much lower, then you start to go back the other way and you start to squeeze out some of the shorts. And I have a feeling that's what's going to be happening over the next couple weeks or however long it takes. If we look at the NASDAQ, it's going to be basically the same kind of situation. And it's going to look almost identical. Yeah, and you can see here, the hourly chart's a little bit different, but same kind of deal. I'm just going to be looking and seeing if price can kind of come in here and hold the hourly 50, then we can maybe get a move to the upside, and then we'll see about maybe a move to the daily 50, something to that extent. The IWM, if we look at this, it's had decent or at least better relative strength because it did not make a lower low. So that makes it a little bit unsure of where it's going to go because, these small caps, even though they didn't go down very much, they might not go up as much. And so I'm left kind of wondering what to do about this. But this is actually a double bottom that's working. It is closer to the daily 50, so I don't know if it's going to move, if it's actually going to move higher than what the S&P does. So we're going to kind of have to take that as a either case by case or index by index situation. Because if we come over here and look at the IWM, and we zoom out a little bit, you can see here, especially on the weekly, it kind of already came up here and touched the weekly 21. So, that makes it a little bit uncertain. So yes, relative strength because it didn't make lower lows, but will it have the strength to the upside, or is it really just going to kind of be more sideways? I think I have a little bit more clarity and insight with the SPY, so I'm probably going to lean towards trading that one, maybe even the NASDAQ. As an example of another area that might still be a little bit weak, and we'll have to see if it can actually make up, because just because these things are oversold or kind of coming down to an area where they can or are likely to bounce, they may not necessarily all go to the same place. So the semis, will they make it all the way back up to wherever the daily 50 is? I don't know. Is this going to be one of those areas that this is super oversold and is going to be very fertile for a short squeeze and short covering rally, or is it just going to have kind of a mediocre move up, mediocre bounce because it is one of the weaker areas? That is really just going to be something we're going to have to wait and watch and experience. And if we come over here on the weekly, so one way you could do that is you could trade all of them. I mean, if they're all basically going to move, and some of them move more than others, I mean, at least you won't be wrong if the trade is correct. So then you can just figure out, okay, well, which racehorse ran the furthest. Since they travel in packs and they bring their friends, they're all going to generally move about the same. But you can see here, there's kind of a level, kind of an area for even the semis to bounce. There's previous price congestion and a third ATR and monthly 30 or monthly 50, that kind of stuff. And if this came up here, what if it could actually get back up to the weekly 21? It has done that in the past, and so I'm looking at that kind of opportunity as a bit of a reversion to the mean type bounce. Now, I will say, be careful after that. I do think that this next bounce that we get, even if it lasts a few weeks and looks really, really strong, just like the one in August, I do think that this is going to be just a glorified bounce in a downtrend. So look for however long or however big this bounce is going to be, but then eventually when the bounce is done and over, I do think we're going to be rolling back over and actually heading down in a big way. If we look at the UVXY, this is another situation, an area that kind of helps confirm what it is that I'm seeing in through here. And with the UVXY, I do think we're going to be running, we crossed the 50, ran into the 200. I think we're going to be coming back down to the 50. Of course, it's got some tree branches in the way. It does take a while for stuff to come back down, but I do think that we're going to be heading that direction. And then we'll have to see about it reverting or turning around, changing trend. So down to the daily 50, and then we'll have to see if it wants to change trends after that. Then just kind of a couple other things we can look and talk about. Tesla, it is down on earnings. And again, there's the idea about a counter trend trade coming up here, because if we look at Tesla, it is at a double bottom. I mean, look at this. It is at a really big kind of level right there that might just find a little bit of a bounce before going lower. So again, I think that the whole context here, I do think that these bigger names in the market as a whole will go lower. I don't think they're done yet. But I think right this moment, I think things are a little bit overdone to the short side, and I'm looking for a little bit of a bounce or a reversion to the mean. Now, whether that's tradable or not, that is yet to be discovered. But I do think that the short side is getting a little bit overdone, and I would be cautiously looking long. I don't see anything yet that I can go long on. We still have Microsoft and Google and Apple and stuff like that doing earnings. Tesla was down on earnings. Netflix was up on earnings. So I don't like to trade earnings. We're going to have to wait till after earnings to really get some of these signals and information. But I would just be wary about trying to keep pushing things on the short side and maybe be looking for a little bit of a bounce to the upside. But again, I don't quite see anything yet. I don't see any signals quite yet. I just see indications of what might be starting to shape up. If we look at Apple, come on over here. And one of those things that I was seeing as indication, if we can get in here through here, something's looking a little bit screwed up. Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay, so part of what I'm seeing here is the divergences. So price down, the Moxie indicator has been trending up. We got the Moxie price trigger, and we do have earnings coming up. So again, I'm not going to be doing anything until earnings. And what I'm wondering is this going to maybe do just a little bit of a dip below the hourly 50 and then go up? Hard to say yet. I would be careful, be cautious, and see if there's actually a dip that, because remember, when we had the last CPI reading, price went down a lot, and then it spiked right back up. We got a huge short covering rally last Thursday. So just remember, it is possible. When things get oversold, they bounce. When they get oversold, they bounce. Okay, so just kind of keep that in mind. Oversold, they bounce. So even if, just like Tesla, it had a big move to the downside, that could be an oversold situation that could actually get bought back up. We don't know yet, but I would say keep an eye on that, and it's a possibility. Apple might do the same, because I don't think Apple's quite ready to go long yet, and it might take one of those events like earnings to kind of flesh out the weak hands or go down or something like that to really kind of trigger a short squeeze or a short covering rally. If we look at Microsoft, and actually let me kind of come over here and change. Well, we'll forget that. It's going to be too much. So if we come over here and look at Microsoft, it's going to be basically in the same boat. You can see these things are all kind of doing the same thing. They are getting pretty stretched and far away from their daily 50s, so getting kind of far away from moving averages, and I think that they are hammering at a bottom. I think we could see price down, Moxie indicator up, and I think they're right here just trying to figure themselves out and hammer something out and trying to figure out which moving average or if it's going to undercut and if they're going to be finding some sort of support. Just seeing clues, seeing loose setups, casual setups, but nothing quite yet. And then what I wanted to also then circle back to, say, UUP. Now, if we look at the dollar, and I'm going to make a very, very loose and casual observation here that it's only going to work if it works, and this is really based on bigger macro stuff. Of course, it's the dollar and with bonds and interest rates and all that kind of stuff. This is stuff that I'm not keeping up every second of the day, and I'm trying to wrap my Moxie stuff and chart patterns around the dollar. But the only thing I'm going to point out is that in the recent past, when price would get up outside of the third ATR, it would pull back. You can see right there. It would pull back. Now, more commonly, it would pull back to the daily 50. Okay, and if that happened, if the dollar was able to pull back, that would give the market a little bit of breathing room. So we should look for and see if there is going to be a coincidence of these things lining up at the same time. Now, maybe they don't pull back to the daily 50. It could also do something like this, where maybe it just kind of goes sideways, mostly into the daily 50, like that. But it is getting to a point where the gap between price and the daily 50 seems to be kind of excessive. You can see here, gaps, 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 and that there might be opportunity, or again, something that might line up at the same time where price pulls back to the daily 50 and the S&P bounces, or does a bear flag up to the daily 50. So kind of watch that interaction. Again, I'm not going to be calling this too much. It's just kind of pointing out a couple things. And then if I were to be looking at the hourly chart, price has been flagging sideways. It's been trying to get over the hourly 50, but notice that the Moxie indicator has been below 0. So that might be another indication of energy and momentum coming out of this, to where it might be starting to move to the downside. With that, kind of the tag team that goes with this would be TLT or the TNX, basically bonds. And another thing that would help the market move up a little bit is if these started getting bought. So just like the dollar needs to go down, these would need to go up in order for the market to go up a little bit. And unfortunately, I just don't see anything. There's nothing yet here that says this thing's likely to turn. The only thing I could point out is the fact that it's getting a little bit excessive to the downside, to where it's a bit of a waterfall. And oftentimes with anything stock related, you get a little bit too far one place and it'll do a little bit of bounce to the other. You can see here and here and here and here, small bounces, but still bounces. And if we just even got a little bit of a bounce like that, I think that would be enough to kind of back off some pressure on the market to move it up. Again, I'm not going to be putting too much weight into this. I could be completely wrong here. I'm only talking about things that we tend to see, and it just appears that this could be getting at an area to where something could flatten out or bounce a little bit, but I'm in no way really taking action on this. It's only just stuff that I'm trying to piece together for my understanding and guidance of the rest of the market. Let me go back one more time also. Okay, the VIX is not going to work, so let's go over to, say, UNG, because I know a lot of people keep looking at that. I am a little surprised, honestly, that the UNG keeps going down. I thought UNG would keep going up with Europe and winter and the whole Russia situation, so I don't know what the inner workings is for this and why it's been going down so much, but there just has not been an opportunity to buy. The Moxie traders and I were looking at this a little while ago because it seemed as though price might be kind of finding some footing here at the previous low and at the daily 200 and stuff like that, and possible divergence, but there was anything that ever fired. There was nothing that actually confirmed to the long side. Price did get over the hourly 50, but the Moxie indicator was below zero. That's not a trigger. And then price failed the hourly 50. So, no trigger. Then the Moxie indicator got over zero, but price was below the 50, so no trigger. And in fact, price was getting rejected by the underside of the hourly 50, and that's what continued to push price lower. So just nothing to do here on the long side for UNG. It just continued to basically flag a little bit, bear flag a little bit, and then continue to move down. So nothing there. And then if we look at USO, it's looking a little bit better. And if we actually, let me come over here on the weekly time frame, because there's a little bit that if this works out to the long side, I could point out a couple things. If this works, then on the weekly chart I'm seeing a leg, heel, arch of the foot, ball of the foot, and we could be seeing a bit of an elf toe on USO. And if we come over here, again, really having to stretch for this to see if something's going to be working out, but if it does, then this is how it sets up. There could be an inverse head and shoulders right there on the daily chart, so that could be a thing that is trying to make things go bullish, and we would need to see price get back over the daily 50. Right now it does look like this. I called this out earlier in the week that there is a potential trampoline move, so price below the 50 but the Moxie indicator above zero is a trampoline move, and we could see that kind of potentially setting up. This looks like it's going to work. Yeah, so again, I'm not sure I'm really going to be trading too much with this, but it does look like USO is going to be moving up. We at least do have the 8 over the 21 potential trampoline move. The next step is that we actually need to get price up over the hourly 50, so look for that to happen. And then if that were to happen, then we would need to see price continue to hold the uptrending 15-minute 50, and there was some divergence that helped set that up. So USO looking like it's trying to go bullish a little bit, and again, that has a lot to do with just the whole oil situation out there and OPEC and reducing 2 million barrels per day and all that. The next thing, if we look at XLE, XOP, Gush, if you're interested in the leveraged ETF, I am seeing some bullishness here as well. You can see there's a double bottom, there's positive divergence. Price did pull back and test basically the daily 21 and the daily 50, and then price, as it was flagging, got dipped below the hourly 50, but the Moxie indicator stayed above zero. That's a trampoline move. And then you could see that the Moxie indicator had a weak setup there because the indicator was spread, but then it had a much stronger setup because the Moxie indicator was much tighter. There was a nice move here as price kind of came into the 15-minute 50, then shot up. And basically the next thing I'm looking at is seeing, okay, is the 15-minute 50 going to continue to hold, or do we maybe come down a little bit here and up like this? But overall, XLE, XOP, Gush, oil, it is basically the only bullish sector that I've seen out there. Everything else looks like it's just going to move up from an oversold condition. So that's kind of the read of everything I'm seeing out there. Hopefully you guys enjoy that, and I will catch you guys at the next one. Thanks.
Hey guys, Dave Keller here with StockCharts.com. Thanks so much for watching our video. If you enjoyed it, and we hope you did, hit the like button right below. Also, we have so much new content every day. Consider subscribing to the channel. Just hit the subscribe button in the video or right below. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. Have a fantastic day.